We are all natural-born storytellers. We tell stories to make sense of the world, of our lives. They help us to learn because they allow us to see the world through each other's eyes, to share each other's experiences. And it's through the sharing of stories that we connect. They enable us to understand what came before, where we are now, and what could happen next. A community is a collection of the stories of its people. A web of interconnected lives, these weaving narratives that bind us, define us. Our memories and emotions are marks on a map that chart a course towards one of the few ineffable truths of our existence. We respond to stories because they are at the core of what makes us human. Recorded in Gipsyville, Hull, June 2021, these stories of the Shires are the personal stories of the community, told in their own words, in their own voices. Individually, each one is unique, but collectively, each one is a chapter in a much grander narrative. This is what it means to be alive. Chapter 1. Internal Resolve.
If I could make those 10 years count for something now, in terms of the experience that I got, it doesn't take away the harm that I've done to people. But if I can somehow make those 10 years count and do something positive from that, then surely there wouldn't be a better way for me to repay society. All the neighbours know my background. They all know who I am now. We have a really good relationship. They accept everything about my background and they accept the person I am now. And it's just been a complete sort of refreshing change. And I can just move forward with my life with good people and just be the person that I was before this happened. I was born in Birmingham in the West Midlands. My dad and mum both had professional jobs and we had a really privileged upbringing. I don't think you realise when you have such a privileged upbringing that it's that privileged. You just don't realise how lucky you are, and we certainly didn't. When I went to school, I really excelled at school, so I was sort of a golden child really. When I left school, the family moved up to Hull from Birmingham, and that was just when I was about 18. I decided to go to university and I did law, and again I really excelled at that. I really excelled at all legal aspects of it. It just really suited me. I came top of the year at university and got first class honours, and then I started working in the legal profession, and I did that for I think up until about 10 years ago, and I really excelled, did really well, really enjoyed it, had a really good life. Had a significant amount of money, owned 2 flats that I rented out, and just everything was great. And then I fell into addiction. It's like some sort of silent stalker. It's like a shadow and it just suddenly creeps up on you. No, not suddenly. It creeps up on you really slowly and then you nosedive. So I started with just drinking too much after work, opening a bottle of wine, wasn't listening to Radio 4 or classical music thinking I'm very cultured, and suddenly the bottle of wine turned into 2. That slipped into it being really problematic with work, me having to take time off work, because I was hungover. And then slipping into cocaine addiction from that. And then eventually cocaine went to crack. And so for I think about a 5-year period of my life, it just went so drastically downhill that I look back at my childhood and my career and I just think the person that I changed into was just unrecognisable. I was in a chaotic life. I was in prison 5 times and my behaviour was wicked and bad. I can say prison didn't work for me. It really didn't, and I think there would have. I'm not saying I didn't deserve the punishment, but it didn't make me better in a way that I could have had more therapy, or maybe more therapy even in prison. That would have been a good solution because I did deserve to be punished. But then coming out, that was the hardest thing of all. Coming out was actually a worse experience for me than going into prison. I remember having a panic attack in Leeds City Centre and, thinking everybody knew, the judgment of people, realising it had been in the paper, trying to get work. It's just, the change, the lack of support. I'd been in another part of Hull before and I didn't feel comfortable there because there were old acquaintances and also victims. So I wanted to move somewhere different, and when I first came here and had a look, I thought, oh, what a lovely little area, how sweet, or a lovely little row of shops. There's a very different side to it. There's a very rough and ready side. It reminds me, just talking about it, reminds me of that programme, The Secret Millionaire, and I just look at them and I think, you're not rich. You're not really rich. Look at Beverly Hills Housewives, are they happy? I look at them and I think, we can all sit out in the street and, people will go in and cook for each other and care about each other, and it's a community spirit that you just don't get, and certainly in big detached houses where you don't speak to the neighbours. Gradually, I've started to build my life back up. Of course, it's been really hard in terms of getting a job. I've been out of prison 2 years now. I've been clean now 4 years. I really believe the answer to curing addiction is internal resolve. You can have as many external resources as you want. It's internal resolve, and you just have to want it. I'm so aware of the fragility of life now as well. I mean, if it can happen to me, it really can happen to anybody.
Chapter 2. It's not the same anywhere nowadays.
Yeah, I wasn't born round here. Well, you was up Esley Road, weren't you?
From Esley Road, yeah.
Yeah, Esley Road. Gipsy was in Liverpool Street. Where did we meet? Scaler Dance Hall. Didn't we?
Yeah.
When we met.
Oh, disaster.
Yeah, we was, you used to go out with all your mates, didn't you?
Yeah.
To the pub, then they all used to go into...
Played football.
And then we all used to go, then we went out in a crowd. And then we all met up in Walton Street Club, didn't we?
So I worked on the fish dock. You know what happened to that then, don't you? The way that collapsed.
It's a shame. I went...
You won all, didn't you?
Reckitt's. Bottom of Airfare stop from being 15. And then I went to be auxiliary nurse at Hull Royal. I was on Ward 6 and that was lovely. I was there for quite a few years. I loved it. But it was nice. We went to see a house down at the bottom first, didn't we? Because we lived with his mum first off. And then we went to have a look at a house at the bottom. I liked it. I liked Gipsyville. And my sister lived on the front. And I was always going in there to see. And I was always in there now to go with the twins, and then we used to go for walks. And my sister, we used to walk to Ferriby, because my other sister, she lived in Ferriby, on Ferriby High Road. So I used to take the twins with us because she had twins. And we used to walk there, didn't we?
Oh, there's a few here, weren't there? How many?
In our family, 11. 7 girls and 4 boys.
Wow.
I used to live in Arthur Street. That's when my dad used to, when he come home from sea, used to say, I hope you're not going to that den of iniquity, Scaler. I would say, no, Dad, I'm going to Newington. I used to go up Plain Street, and then we used to walk straight across Andy Pea Road to Walton Street.
Yeah, that's it.
Didn't we? Oh, well, that's where I met you there then. Then we all used to go, and then we used to meet, and we used to go for a drink and that with all his mates. It was nice. And then we decided, got married and went to have a look at the houses. But I like this one because it was more quieter around here. There was 2 old ladies at either side.
Have you seen a lot of change then?
Oh gosh, have I. This, when we first moved down here, they said this was the best Shires street in Gipsyville. And it was. Everybody wanted a house. It has altered ever so much.
Well, it's altered everywhere, isn't it?
You what, love?
It's not the same anywhere, is it? Nowhere.
No. I still like living here. And there's a lot of nice people. I like it. I wouldn't go
Let's
to
say
another
this.
one.
It has its good days and it has its bad, like everybody else will.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
So you don't see yourself moving away then?
No.
Yes, if I want the big one.
Chapter 3. What I've been missing because of what I've been doing.
She was looking again on whatever thingy she looks at, and she mentioned Dorset Street. And I thought, oh, hang on a minute. Because it has got a worst reputation in Hull. I mean, it's supposed to be named the worst street in Hull. When we first moved here, it was really bad. There was fighting every night, windows were going through, doors were going through from coppers. But over the time, it's calmed down. We've never had any trouble. I love the street. It's brilliant. I think it was 91, something like that. We was offered a house. One of my mum and dad's best mates was leaving the country and wanted somebody to look after his house. It was this big 4-bedroomed house, and honest, it was massive. You could fit this one inside it. So we were willing to do it, you know what I mean? And then it all fell through and he wanted his house back. But the house next to my mum and dad, where they lived in Withensea, was up for rent. And my dad managed to sort it out, paid the money, so we could move in there. Yeah, we moved to next door to my mum and dad's. And then me and her split up. She started seeing somebody else. It didn't really bother me, to be fair. I knew something was going on, but the love had gone. I know the kids get hurt. 2 came to live with me, the 2 oldest lads, and 2 young ones went with her. I met her on campsite in Tunstall. I was a DJ there. And we met, had a good week together. And I thought to myself, yeah, why not? So, went to Sheffield with her. Had her first bairn, I and my eldest lad. And then we had our next son, our Mark, or Puds, that's his real name. Well, nickname, though. I'm going to start crying now because he's dead. He was murdered. Just give me a minute. 6 years ago, on the 28th of this month, he was stabbed in the neck and bled to death. But anyway, and I got my next son, our Adam, who I don't talk to because it was his fucking fault. And I've got a daughter. She's about 25. Anyway, so basically crap's happened. I'm just going through counselling now because I've never been able to bereave. Never known how to. I've always loved to drink. I've smoked marijuana since I was 14. I haven't touched it now for 3 months, which I'm really proud of because I've done it myself. But it's the bereavement. I'm getting to the point where I'm starting, my head's, you know what I mean? I'm starting to realise what I've missed. And it's hard. I cry so much. I was on the phone to my counsellor for about an hour and I must have cried about 20 times. It is really hard because I'm now beginning to see what I've been missing because of what I've been doing. And we had landlords, the actual landlord who owns it, they came down to see what we'd done to it. Because I do all my own DIY. I don't ask them to do anything. There's not a thing I can't do. Jack of all trades, master of none. But I learnt that off my dad. And they came down, they looked round the place, and he went, "How long are you planning on staying?" And I went, "I ain't going nowhere, mate. Carry me out in a box." I mean, it's supposed to be named the West Street in Hull. It's just because it's called Dorset Street. But I love it, I really do. I ain't moving nowhere.
Chapter 4. Each street are these streets, not just the estate streets.
I always used to think, Gipsyville. I ain't going on bloody Gipsyville. Says it in the name, doesn't it? Gipsyville. But I got here, absolutely love it. I was originally in Beverley, born at Beverley Westwood. And yeah, I was all right there, I had all my friends and things. And then I was drinking, so I ended up going into rehab in Bridlington when I was 21. Yeah, I was 21 in the July and I went into rehab in the August. Met this girl in there called Sarah. Obviously we became friends. She lived on Gipsyville, I lived in Beverley. When we came out of rehab, she said, "Do you want to come to mine?" I said, yeah. Met a brother, got with a brother, was with him for 10 years. Well, 10 years in September, we've just split up now, had the 2 boys. So since I was 21 and I'm 30 now, I have lived on Gipsyville. I've loved Gipsyville, I've loved it, but I am obviously going back to Beverley. Each street has their own group. So like down this street, it's our group, that street they'll have their group and things. And like with us, we speak to every single person who walks down. And even though, because we don't want to come across as intimidating as we're sat in a big group, because we ain't got gardens, so we all sit on the front talking, we don't want people to think, "Oh God, I ain't going past all them." We're fine, just walk by us, say ya, we'll say ya. And then by the end of it, you've most of made another friend anyways. Everybody down here, I just love them all. It is so nice, I just love it. And I am going to miss it. Definitely, I will miss this street. I will miss Gipsyville. As well, this is why I want to go to Beverley, because Hull schools do worry me. Especially, I've got my eldest, he's real quiet and real nice. And then I've got Blake, he's still a real good boy, but he's a proper boy. And it's like, people say you can't take the Gipsyville out of a lad. I don't think I'm going to get Gipsyville out of him. The horses, the carts, the scrap. To me, from Beverley, Gipsyville is its own like little estate. Everybody always speaks about the houses are crap. They are down here, there's no gap, all the alleys just get full. I need a new kitchen, everything's falling off the wall. My bathroom's full of mould, kitchen's full of mould, the bedrooms are full of mould. My roof's been leaking at the extension, so that goes right down the hallway on the ceiling from the extension outside. They do need to get the lot and just restart. Build some nice apartments or something. And it's like, maybe have like the oldies one side, few there, and just make it So each have their own groups. Think it'd be alright?
Chapter 5. We had no one to fall back on. You don't tell your wish, do you?
Moved up this end when I was about 10 and ended up moving down Bulfrey Road, and then Mum and Dad split up and then ended up down Monmouth Street for a few years, and then basically went from there, moved all over really.
It's not the people that live down here.
It's the people who don't live down here.
You know, all the little terrorists and all that lot that come down the street and give the street a bad name. That's what it is. It's not the people that live in down here. So I've always said that. And we all know each other. We all go out, especially when it's beaming sun, we're all out, the kids are out, the dogs are out.
Yeah,
and we all just come out and the kids just out on the scooters and whatever, and if something's going on with one of them, that's it. Everybody else is out.
Lived in Ezel for 20 years, Brough for a couple of years, and then ended up back down here, living in Ezel again with my mum, and then my mum passed. It'd be 8 years, November 14th this year.
Yeah.
Which that was a big kick in the teeth. Ended up living down Albert Ave, didn't we?
That's where I
ended
met
up
you.
moving in with my brother in a flat, and then that's where we kind of met. And then, he'd not been paying the rent. We ended up getting evicted, didn't we? And then, so we didn't really have that,
We was sleeping rough for a couple of weeks, weren't we?
Well, not rough, but...
No, sofa surfing, basically. If it weren't for the soup kitchens, we wouldn't have eaten at that time. It is very, very difficult because not only has he lost his mum, he doesn't speak to his dad either. Yeah. And I ain't got no mum or dad. I didn't want to go to my brother lives in France and I've got a sister, but she's got her own family, 3 kids and that, and I didn't want to burden her.
I just lost my nana, I know that.
Yeah.
Was it that?
The
year
year
before, wasn't it? Just the year before.
So we literally had nobody to fall back on, and at the last minute he went, right, I'm gonna have to do it. It was
I rang one of my mum's best mates, and out of all my family, she stepped up.
And he got on the phone and he was telling her the story, and he went, by any chance can you be a homeowner guarantor? My dad won't even do it for me.
That's all I need.
And that's all we needed. And she went, yeah, not a problem. And with that he got on the phone to these landlords.
Lord Bright, wasn't it?
It was either this one or Newland Ave. Well, we'd never lived up Newland Ave, but because I'd lived on Hereford Street beforehand. That was my first house when I was pregnant with my other child. I went, right, we both know the area, we both know what the houses are like. So if you it, and within 2 days, we managed to scrape through and get it done, didn't we? We've always been mentioning about having our own child.
So we have been trying for a good couple of years since we've moved in, more or less. Now we knew we've
settled.
We've got something secure and stable, and like we've tried, and it's been test after test, but it's just.
You know, come to that time of the month and I'm like...
A couple of days later and then...
Is it? And then, no, it's just because of stress or something. And we was walking...
Last year, wasn't it? We was walking the dog, weren't we?
Yeah.
And we was coming back and we had the bear with us, we were walking up and down. And I said to Kayla, and I went, here, watch. So I went over and literally, I didn't say what my wish was because...
You don't tell your wish.
You don't tell your wish, do you? And then obviously so I rubbed it and I went, nah, that's me, I've just made my wish.
The bairn's what you're doing? He was like, it's a genie, you make her rub the lamp, make a wish. And then, how long is it after you rub the lamp? 2 or 3 months after.
And then?
Did a pregnancy test and that, and found out I was pregnant, and then he went, do you know what, that was my wish with the genie lamp.
And then this morning, just before you turned up, I've been out of work, 2 years?
Yeah.
So I just done my forklift licence a couple of weeks ago, and 2 years out of work, I'd start Sunday, don't I?
So that hopefully means better things now, because that means you might be able to save up and get a car, and which means days out for the baby and things like that.
It's not that, because before we found out that Kayla was pregnant,
if you look up that's our Maximus.
We lost him a week before we found out she was pregnant.
He died a week before in our arms, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then, you know the saying, a loved one goes and another one comes, sort of thing.
You know where they're going when they leave it. You're going to go rub that lamp. Yeah.
Chapter 6. Don't worry about it, son. You've got a job.
I was born down Westfield Road. I went to Sydney Smith, and then from then, when I left school at the age of 16, I started working in the family shop, the handyman. Yeah, he opened this shop the year I was born in 1967. It'd be 54 years since we've had the shop. Yeah, because my dad had he had a building side to the business, and as you say, virtually, I used to work part-time when I was at school. I used to work on a Saturday and after school. You know what I mean? My father always said, "Don't worry about it, son. You've got a job." He grew up down Sledmere Grove. He lived on just off North Road, and so we've always lived in the local area. And I had an house down Gloucester Street and brought me 3 daughters up down there. We lived down there for, I would say, about 4 years, and then we moved in 2001 to Westfield Road. But we know all the community and whatever. We've grown up, people respect, because we've been here for that so many years, you know what I mean? They can come from far and field, they can come from Brough, Ellerton, Beverley, wherever. They come from all over all to come to the shop, but then we still have our local community what still shops. And like there's a lot of years ago there used to be a fair few people what used to own the properties, but now it's a lot of there's a hell of a lot of people on the Shires what's bar to let, so there's a lot of people what rent properties around this area. I'm quite happy with what I've done and lived in, as you say, and where I've worked and whatever. Well, to be honest, mate, I had a bleeding bit of a bad dough last year during the lockdown. I ended up having a heart attack. So I would say I've got probably another 6 years. I'll probably wait till I'm virtually 60, and then I'm thinking about retiring then. Well, I'm a class 1 diabetic. I've been one since the age of probably 13, 14. And I thought I was doing too much because I was absolutely hectic last year in the lockdown. Because at one point there was only 2 DIY shops open in the whole of the area. When you look at everything, there's negatives everywhere where you go. You could say, well, there's drug problems with whatever and whatever, but you could move anywhere in the country and you'd probably still come across it. It's society, to be honest. So you can't say, oh, well, there's a real bad area, there's a problem with the drugs or whatever, anything. But you could move anywhere in the country and you'd probably still come across it. So it's hard to say, really. You just got to move on and live with it, haven't you?
Chapter 7. I made me the person I am.
No way am I staying in all, it's disgusting. I didn't want my mum to miss anything. I didn't want her to miss like my little girl's first words or first steps. So I came and stayed over here. And I was supposed to go home, but then my landlord changed my locks and didn't notify me or anything. So it's like literally stuck at the minute. And then in 2 years' time I'm off back. Because I have a past trauma here that changes how I feel about this place anyway. When I moved to Leeds, I made me the person I am. And like, I felt safe. I feel a lot safer over there than I do here. Because I don't know whether he's ever going to walk down the street or like pass me like while I'm walking in a shop, or it just terrifies me. So I just can't wait to go back to Leeds. It's so much better. I love it. You've got things to do and you know, all your friends have got plans and stuff, and you're making plans, and over here you're just like waking up just to see another day through. It's ridiculous. And then this area is just run down to shit. I went and stayed with my mum for a year, and there was 11 of us in a 5-bedroomed house. Bearing in mind, 2 of them are disabled and need their own rooms. So technically there was like 9 of us living in a 3-bedroomed house. I was living there for a year, just had Sophia, and I needed to get out. I just needed to move because I've like always lived on my own since I was 16. So after a year, I started looking for a house, found this one. Went and did overtime at work just to be able to afford the deposit. Paid the deposit, and then a week later council told me that they could have given me an house. I knew about this area anyway, like, but it was a lot worse, like a hell of a lot worse. Everyone would be fighting on the streets, there'd be a lot more rubbish on the streets, and it was just an horrible area. You wouldn't walk around on your own type of thing. And it's calmed down a lot since then, because I'm outspoken. I will say it how it is. I'm not this person to just sit there and be mugged off. And I didn't have to be that strong before everything. After everything, I had to build up that person. So now people know that we used to be able to walk all over her. Let's try again now. But I didn't see it. Like, I moved away from all my family to be with that person. Away from my mum, away from everyone. And then he did what he did, and I had no one. I was there on my own with my 2 children and pregnant. And I just carried on. I had to carry on. I couldn't stop. Whereas everyone else would have given up. But then I found out I developed a split personality disorder from my ex-partner and his actions. So now I have to live medicated every day, just to keep it under control.
What additional support do you get for that?
Just my mum. Literally just my mum. Just my mum and the doctor when they prescribed me my tablets, that's it.
And they offered more than tablets in terms of, like, you know, talking to people away from your family, like, if they offered...
Nope. I just learned to live with it myself. Like, after that many years, you just tend to get used to it, and you know that the only person that's gonna make you better is yourself anyway. So it's my coping mechanism now. I do it on my own because it's easier. It's easier to not talk about it, to put it to the back of my mind and get over it that way, than it is to sit and talk about it all. Like, when I'm in Leeds and I'm having a drink with my friends and stuff, we'll talk about things, and that's how I get it off my chest, bit by bit. But other than that, I don't think I'd sit in a room with somebody, because it'd hurt. Like, going through literally everything. It would. A lot of people they'll look at me and think I ain't had a lot happen, and you know, I'm just me. Not a lot of people know that, but yeah, that is my story. That is who I am today. I am me because of all of that. But it'll always end in Leeds. It'll never end in Hull.